This is a Rubik's Cube. Well, this isn't. This is a squishy stress toy. But in the 1980s, this was taking the world by storm. 6 faces, 6 colors, and a lot of frustrated people trying to solve it. Today, speed cubing is enjoyed worldwide, with events happening all over the world in every country, even here in Ireland. So who do we have to thank for the Rubik's Cube? Born in 1944 in Budapest as the son of an aircraft designer, Erno Rubik is a Hungarian inventor who is now a professor of architecture and is best known for inventing the Rubik's Snake, Rubik's 360, Rubik's Magic, and the Rubik's Cube. He also studied sculpture at the Academy of Applied Arts and Design in Budapest and architecture at the Technical University in Budapest. While he was a professor of design at the Academy, he often built geometric models. One of these was the prototype of his cube, which he made out of 27 wooden blocks in 1974. After creating this prototype, and although it took him a month to solve, it proved a very useful tool for teaching algebraic group theory to his students. He set out to find a company that would be able to manufacture his design, eventually setting on a small company that worked with plastic and made chess pieces, leading to the sale of what would be called the Magic Cube. Now, the cube became an instant success worldwide. It won several Toy of the Year awards and ultimately became a staple of 1980s culture. And then Rubik went on to develop his other puzzles. This is Rubik's Revenge. Not this is just a 4x4 speed cube, but the real Rubik's Revenge was developed in 1981 by Hungarian inventor Peter Szebeszteni. Now, once the original Rubik's Cube was released, there was a whole bunch there was quite a few books written on the topic. One of these books was written by American mathematician and professor of mathematics David Singmaster and had theorized a 4x4 cube conceptually, but Szebeszteni made that a reality. He studied Singmaster's writing and eventually discovered a way to engineer the 4x4 cube, saying the crucial point was whether an internal sphere in the large 4x4x4 cube could reach and hold a small unit cube at the corner. I made some elementary calculations that took only 1 minute or 2 to find out, to my great surprise, that a 4x4x4 cube was feasible. To construct the rest of the cube was not that difficult. I came to the idea of splitting the center axis of the 3x3x3 into 4 parts, and let the parts rotate freely around a core. They were held in place by shield-formed parts. These center parts held the edge and corner pieces, preventing the cube from falling apart. Basically, I had a solution in some 15 minutes. After he developed this, he applied for a patent for the 4x4 cube on the 3rd of February 1981. And after some negotiations, a contract was signed with Ideal Toys, but Szebeszteni ensured, while he gave away his patent rights, that he would get a royalty for every 4x4 cube sold. He had originally hoped that it would be called the Szebeszteni's Cube, but later abandoned that idea and let it be called the Rubik's Revenge, or in some European countries, the Rubik's Master Cube. When asked about the 4x4 cube, he says it is the only achievement that probably will survive me. I just checked the Rubik's website and it is marketed as the Rubik's Master here in Ireland. This is a 5x5 speed cube, or the Rubik's brand version is called the Professor's Cube. It's not solved. While the Professor's Cube is not named directly after Rubik, at least nowadays, when the toy was originally released in Germany, it was called the Rubik's Wahn or Rubik's Illusion. So this new cube was developed by a German inventor. So Rubik was Hungarian, Szebeszteni was Hungarian, and now German inventor Udo Krell had designed the 5x5. And while there were several designs for 5x5 thrown around, Krell's design was the one that was just kinda used. So Krell's design was the first one to be manufactured and was actually manufactured by Murphy in Hong Kong in 1983, and then it was marketed by Ideal Toys. And then in 1985, Christoph Bendelau bought all the unsold German stock of the 5x5 cubes and then just sold them off as giant magic cubes, which eventually then changed to Professor's Cube in the 1990s. Ironically, Szebeszteni and Krell actually lived in the same city at the same time period, Hamburg. While Szebeszteni was Hungarian, he moved to Germany. Okay, so far in this timeline, Rubik invented 3x3, Szebeszteni invented the 4x4, and then Krell invented the 5x5. So I thought Rubik perhaps invented the 2x2 as like a trial run for the 3x3. And I was very wrong. Larry D. Nichols was born in 1939 in the US and studied chemistry before going to Harvard Graduate School. And then in 1957, which is 17 years before the invention of the original Rubik's Cube, Nichols conceived of a twist cube puzzle with 6 colored faces. A 2x2 cube, which would be assembled using 8 smaller cubes and magnets. Like, Magnets are such a big part of modern day speed cubing. If you look at all the GAN cubes, they have magnets, and in 1957, Larry D. Nichols is adding magnets to a 2x2, the first 2x2, arguably. So Nichols stated the objective of this puzzle was to mix up the colors and then try to restore them. And after making many models, in 1968 a working prototype was made. And then on April 1972, a patent was issued for the Nichols cube. The patent focused on the 2x2, mentioned the possibility of larger versions. Of course, Ideal Toys released the Rubik's Pocket Cube in 1981, which is actually quite a bit smaller than modern 2x2s, as far as I know. Obviously, there's going to be a court case. And there was. Patents came into question at a court hearing between Nichols' employer and the Ideal Toy Company in 1985. And the US District Court ruled that the Rubik's Cube infringed on Nichols' patent. However, in 1986, the Court of Appeals ruled that only the smaller 2x2 Pocket Cube was guilty of the infringement, not the popular 3x3. Now, this is not to say that this idea was stolen from Nichols. A patent from 1960 shows William O. Gustafsson having a similar puzzle as the 2x2, except it was a sphere. So I think this could be an example of the multiple discovery hypothesis. So this is the idea that similar discoveries can be made by scientists or inventors working independently of each other. An example that's commonly cited is the crossbow. It was created independently in China, Greece, Africa, northern Canada, and the Baltic countries. What is interesting though is that while in the speed cubing community we would refer to these as 2x2, 4x4, and a 5x5, most people don't. The general public still seems to refer to these as Rubik's Cubes, and to me it seems similar to the generification of brand names. Band-Aid, Kleenex, chapsticks, even Google are examples of brands. Like, who's gonna go and say they'll Yahoo something later? While this is pretty common with brands, the fact this is happening to a man's name, a man who is still alive, Erno Rubik is like alive and well. If you look up the 4x4, the Rubik's Master on Rubik's website, and read the description, it's not like they're claiming this is the Rubik's Master. If you read it, it reads almost as if you will be the master of Rubik's if you can solve this. So does that mean you're a master of Rubik'sing, of Rubik'ing, Rubik's cubing? It's almost as if to Rubik is to cube. That sounds very pretentious. I'm not saying we should be changing the 5x5 to Krell's cube, or the 4x4 to Sebastiani's cube. I'm just trying to shine the light on a few inventors and how one man's name is kind of evolving to both a brand and a verb. If you like speed cubing and anything like that, you might want to give this video a like and perhaps subscribe, because there's a lot more stuff like this coming in the future. And if you like the kind of researchy vibe of the video, definitely give a like and subscribe, because there's more stuff coming soon that you might enjoy. Cheers.